We're live, apparently. Andy, Nick.
No.
No, it looks the same to me.
Still says waiting for Plain Talking UK podcast.
Oh, hello. We appear to have gone live, Mr. Stebbings.
Is it working?
I think it might be.
Let me know if it is. Let's change it. Let's change the camera here. Let's see if it is working. Hopefully.
There we go.
Yes, it is
working. Right, I'm going to celebrate now by turning the light on in the studio here. There we go.
Well, I'm going to get another pint then before we start.
Okay.
Oh, Carlos, what are you like? This is what happens when we let Matt have time off.
Yeah, I know.
Shouldn't be allowed.
Was that approved by HR?
What they need to do is they need to invent a system, right, where you come in and you literally just press one single button. A bit like an Airbus. Flying an Airbus, you know. Oi! Damn, did Andy hear me just then?
Yes!
Oh, he did.
Sounded like Matt.
Oi! Oh. This is a family show. Now, for those of you who are in the YouTube room, Mad noticed that Matt's not here. But we will be starting the show very, very swiftly in just a moment once Andy's back from the pub, which is in the room that he's in. Now, we've got no countdown clock tonight because Nev is away. He hasn't had a chance to put a clock in, so we are clockless this week on the show.
So we're just going to launch straight into it.
We're going to launch with the credits straight in this week.
Like a bunch of crazy lunatics.
I know.
Jumping into the abyss.
Beverage restocked.
Oh, look at that.
Beautiful, eh? That'll do.
Oh, I've got beer envy.
Yeah, so have I. I've got orange squash here. Right, if we're all ready, shall we start this?
Let's have a go, shall we?
Right, fade is coming down. Here we go. Let's start this show.
The captain has turned on the seatbelt light. Please take
No,
your seats and
not that one. That's not supposed to play yet. Oh, dear. This is all going too... That's just too well, isn't it? Right, let's start that with the opener this time. Well, hello and welcome to episode 518 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carlos, and in this week's show we have Toddler Tribulations, Comac deliveries, some Brexit red tape and expansion at London City. In the military news this week we look at 70 years of the Hercules and a drone pilot in hot water. And joining me this week, we have a skeleton crew. So the drinks and meal service have been cancelled. It'll be a no-frills operation this week, but hopefully no Ryanair landings. So sitting over from me in his home pub studio this week is, of course, our resident Airbus pilot, captain and extraordinaire of everything sim-related. It's Captain Andy. Hello, Andy. You're right.
This week?
How are you? Are you well, Andy?
I'm very good, thanks. Yes, very well. Home for a couple of days. Well, home until tomorrow, then off on my travels again.
Off on your travels again?
I'm back in the pub. Well, last week I was in a hotel, wasn't I, down in the south.
mate, you were. But have you still got loads more sim stuff to do? Because you were obviously busy with the sim stuff last week. Are you still doing sim things?
No. I'm going down to Gatwick for another one-day course, and then I'm off to Milan for the weekend for some work there, not flying, that's sim-related, and then I have a little trip around Switzerland on various other work-related meetings with regulators and stuff like that. So yeah, be good fun.
Oh, sounds like fun. Sounds like fun. But, well, as you may have noticed, we have no Nev this week. He's unfortunately away this week. He's busy doing actual work. He's actually working this week. And as you've probably guessed by the reason that we started slightly late this evening, Matt Smith is not here either. He's out enjoying himself this evening. But don't panic, because we've got our writer extraordinaire of all things show notes. It is, of course, it's Nick Codling. Hello, Nick.
Hi, Carlos. Yes, I don't know who approved Matt's holiday leave, but yeah, it would be uncustomary if we didn't have a few little technical glitches, wouldn't it?
Yeah. what would the show be without a few tech
well,
issues?
I think Matt does it on purpose. You know, he makes it look really easy when he's here, but actually, it's all technical trickery.
Yes, he makes it all look so easy. I mean, we nearly did start on time tonight, to be fair. And I did load all the media into the system when I got here this evening to the studio.
I'm sure it's going to be just fine.
We'll be fine. Right, let's have a look and see. Nick, you've got the chat room there, because I'm working via a tablet this evening. Literally, an electronic tablet, not the medicinal kind. Nick, who is joining us in the YouTube chat room this evening?
We have got, starting from the top, Mazoos Kareem. Good evening to you, Mazoos. Local to you, Carlos. Nice to see him in there. Richard Adams, Hobby Time. Some guy called Nick Codling. Probably ought to kick him out. Captain Cruz is in there. Who else have we got? Sturman. Hello to you, sir. Masha is in there. Plane Safety Podcast. Good evening to you. Neil Lambourne. And scrolling further down. Oh, John Jester. Nice to see you, John. Hope you're keeping well. And we have some bloke called Andy Wilson. Don't know who he is. Prop Sky. Been in a couple of weeks now. And yeah, I think that... Oh, Micah's in there. Main man Micah. Hello to you. Haven't seen Micah in there for a few weeks now.
And Christy G as well.
And Jonathan Warner's popped in as well. So yeah, good to see all the usual regular names in there. So yeah, it's nice if you're listening on the audio version, get yourself over to YouTube on a Wednesday night, and yeah, come and get in the chat room, and it's good to get involved.
Yes, it certainly is indeed. And Prop Sky is over in Bournemouth. So hello to you down there in Bournemouth, Prop Sky. It's hope it's nice weather down there. We've had it's been one of those interesting days today where it started off a bit dull this morning, then the sun came out this afternoon, it was absolutely roasting. Then we had torrential downpour, then the sun came out, and then when I finished work at 5 o'clock this afternoon, the sky darkened again, and then we had some more rain. Just a bit of an all-round weather season kind of thing today, but yes, it's still warm here in the UK, it's safe to say. Still fan weather.
We have a weather warning for tomorrow, so apparently we're all going to get washed away down in the southwest, so I might not be on next week.
Oh, what are you going to say, Andy? You're still...
yeah, I did a lot of my flight training out of Bournemouth back in the day. I've flown everything in there, light aircraft, and I've also flown Airbus aircraft into there as well.
It's good little place for a bit of plane spotting as well, isn't it? There's a nice little aviation museum that's sort of adjacent to the runway, which I've been to. And,
do they still have the wagon you can climb on top so you can see over the fence?
Well, they did last time I went, but I've got to admit that was probably 5 or 6 years ago. So, but yeah, it was a pretty decent view down there.
I see Captain Cruz says BAC 111s. I'm not that old.
Hey, I flew on a BAC 111 when I was young.
I flew on one when I was younger, but I'm way too young to be actually flying them.
Actually, there's one of those in the museum at Malta, on a flight deck of one of those BA-711s. It's quite an art to see the flight deck of one of those. It's safe to say that it's definitely what your class as steam gauges, Andy.
Yes, that reminds me. I'll tell you something after the show about that.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Right, we've got lots to get through this evening on the show. Actually, just going to have a special mention as well. You were just talking about plane spotting, places to go. Actually, we mentioned it on the show a few weeks back, I remember. I spoke to Stuart Aslett this afternoon on the way back from work, and he had a really good day at Manchester Airport. He was big up in the Manchester Airport viewing area, and he was saying that it is very much geared up for aviation enthusiasts there. They very much welcome aviation enthusiasts there at Manchester, and you've got quite a viewing platform there to watch the aircraft taxiing past, which I expect you know, Andy, because you've probably been there a few times.
Yes, that's where I mainly fly out of these days. It's quite a lot of fun as you turn off 23 right and wave at everybody stood there, and they always wave back. It's nice.
Actually, you know the guys at Airliners Live broadcast live shows from the red and white checkered hut there.
Yeah.
Do you ever wave at those guys when they're potentially live broadcasting when you go past?
Yeah, I'll wave at them all the time, no problem.
Yay! Because they do enjoy it. I know the viewers and that, when I'm in the chat room watching their live stream, they absolutely love it when the pilots give a bit of interaction and wave through the window. And actually, yeah, you'd be sitting on the correct side for that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, if everybody's gone there to spot planes and that's their passion, why wouldn't I wave? Mine too.
No, it's a good spot up there, isn't it? I'd like to go and check that out myself sometime. It looks like the nice thing about Manchester is you get a real variety of aircraft, don't you?
Yeah, you get a lot of big boys in there as well.
Yeah, it's pretty busy, so there's always plenty going on.
Right, so it is time for a bit of commercial news. So if all the team is ready, shall we do some news?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh.
The captain has turned on the seatbelt light. Please take your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
So the first story this week comes to us from edition.cnn, and Nick, this story, the headline: toddler cried non-stop during a flight, two strangers locked her in the bathroom. Something I think we've all wanted to do at some point in time when we've been flying with young kids. But anyway, two airline passengers who locked a stranger's crying grandchild in a plane restroom have caused outrage in China and sparked a heated online debate on how to handle upset children in public spaces. The incident went viral this week after one of the two women involved posted a video on Chinese social media which showed them inside a locked lavatory with the wailing girl who appeared to be about a year old. She said, "We won't let you out unless you stop crying," a woman sitting on the toilet told the toddler as she struggled out of the adult's lap and reached for the door, according to the video posted on Douyin, China's version of TikTok. As the girl stopped crying, the woman filming the video picked her up and told her, "If you make any noise again, we'll come back to the bathroom." The incident took place on the 24th of August aboard a Junyao Airlines flight from the southwestern city of Guiyang to Shanghai. The toddler was flying with her grandparents and cried non-stop during the nearly 3-hour flight, the airline said in a statement on Monday. The two passengers took the child to the restroom to educate her with her grandmother's consent, the statement added. This is unreal. But a day later, as criticism mounted, the airline's customer service department apologised for the incident and oversight of the crew, adding it condemned the two passengers' behaviour, according to the state-run Southern Metropolis Daily. One of the women who posted the video online said her intention was to ensure a restful flight for other passengers, but her post quickly met a backlash, with many social media users accusing her of being heartless and bullying the child, and the video was later deleted. Adults in their 30s can have emotional breakdowns, but people don't allow toddlers to have theirs, said one comment on China's X. Garnering around thousands of likes, that comment did. We were all once children. Don't be a cold-blooded adult, someone else put. Many other expressed concern that the incident may negatively impact the child's mental health. Multiple Chinese state media outlets have also weighed in, accusing the two women of inappropriate behaviour and calling for greater understanding from the public towards young children who can't control their emotions. In recent years, complaints about young children crying or acting out on flights and trains have regularly trended on Chinese social media, with many accusing parents of not doing enough to manage their kids' behaviour. These incidents have fueled ongoing debates about parenting in public places and in China, where the government is desperately trying to persuade couples to have more children. So, I don't have children, so I don't have to worry about this particular problem. But obviously, Andy, I know you have youngsters, and Nick as well. I think your children have grown up now, haven't they? Probably not this crying.
My daughter is 6 and my son is 13. So, yeah, I had an incident once where I flew back from Hong Kong, and there was a lady sat across the aisle from me, and she had 3 babies. Which in itself would be tricky, I should imagine. And unfortunately, one of them was distinctly unhappy and cried for the entire flight. And I was already wearing earplugs for the flight, and I did seriously consider putting in a second set of earplugs, even if that meant a trip to A&E when I got back to have them removed. Yeah, not pleasant. I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? Because you're in an enclosed environment, you can't get out, and sometimes kids are unhappy, unwell, they might be unfamiliar with flying, and yeah, it's not very nice. What can you do?
No, it's awful for the parents as well, or grandparents in this case, because I've had it when my daughter, she's 6 now as well, when she was a lot smaller. And especially as a baby, because it's really uncomfortable for babies to fly as well, with the pressure in their ears. They don't know what's happening, and their only way of showing their emotion is crying. And it's awful when nothing you are doing is working to calm them down. You can see everybody staring at you, and you literally want to go at them. What more do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? But obviously these two ladies took it in their own hands, which was way out of order. It's just unbelievable. The story's unbelievable.
Just looking in the chat room, Captain Cruz is saying children's bassinets are always at the bulkheads. Avoid these seats when checking in.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yes, in fact, thinking back, that's where I was sat on that particular flight that I mentioned. So yeah, that was maybe my error.
And Props guy is saying in the chat room, at least they didn't put the child in the hold. Would have been a bit chilly in the hold. Just probably not a good idea. But I think we've all been there, and like I've been told many times when I've been moaning about this situation, like Gemma's always saying to me, like, you were a child once. But my argument to that is always, yes, but when I was a child, I loved aviation. You wouldn't find me crying on a plane. I'd be crawling up to the front, to the flight deck, or walking or toddling up to the flight deck. But yeah, I don't know. I think, we'll see what happens in the future when I have my kittens and take those on board an aircraft. Anyhow, story 2, Andy, and it's the usual Ryanair story for story number 2.
Yes, this comes from bbc.co.uk, and Ryanair boss calls for 2-drink limit at airports. Airplane passengers should be restricted to 2 drinks at airports, Ryanair Chief Executive Michael O'Leary has said. Mr. O'Leary said introducing alcohol limits at airports would help tackle a rise in disorder on flights. Violent outbursts are occurring weekly due to alcohol, he said, especially when it's mixed with other substances. We don't want to begrudge people having a drink, he told the Daily Telegraph, but we don't allow people to drink drive, yet we keep putting them up in an aircraft at 33,000 feet. Crew members and other passengers have become targets, according to Mr. O'Leary. Delays add to the problem with longer drinking times at airports. In the old days, people who drank too much would eventually fall over or fall asleep, but now those passengers are also on tablets and powder, he added. It's the mix. You get much more aggressive behaviour that becomes very difficult to manage. Mr. O'Leary said it was difficult for airlines to identify inebriated people at the gate, especially when they boarded in a group. As long as you can see them stand up and shuffle, they will get through. Then when the plane takes off, we see the misbehaviour, he said. Ryanair staff search bags for alcohol before passengers board flights to Ibiza, one of the worst affected party destinations. Other challenging destinations include some of the Greek islands. An airport's UK spokesperson said that disruptive behaviour, whether due to alcohol or other causes, is unacceptable and could lead to substantial penalties. These penalties include fines, boarding being refused, or up to 2 years in jail. The spokesperson added that airports have a wide range of measures in place to monitor and tackle disruptive behaviour and ensure everybody's safety. Airports are committed to providing a safe and enjoyable travel experience for all passengers, and we're pleased that the vast majority of travellers continue to enjoy their journeys responsibly, they said. We have had no complaints. In response to Mr. O'Leary's comments, Wetherspoon chairman Tim Martin said they have reviewed their sales in the last 4 weeks at their busiest airport pub. We've had no complaints about our pubs from the airport authorities or airlines that I'm aware of in recent years, Mr. Martin said. If our pub teams do see a possibly disruptive passenger, they alert police and security, he continued. While there's no perfect solution, he added, working with airports and airlines and the licensing authorities strikes a reasonable balance for outbound flights. There we go. This is a rising problem, and it has been getting worse throughout my career as well. And I see the question that Nick has just popped in there as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
is that something you've ever had to deal with, Andy? Have you had to kick anyone off?
Yes, it's normally, as Mr. O'Leary alluded to, the party destinations. And most airlines, due to the way they schedule things, do these destinations late afternoon, early evening, so people get to the airport with plenty of time to imbibe plenty of products. And then by the time it comes round to the flight, and the flight's normally delayed in the middle of summer because of slots on the previous 6 flights it's done the rest of the day, they've had many hours of drinking. So yes, I've had to refuse people flight as I've watched them walk across the tarmac or stagger across the tarmac and had a chat with them. I've had fights in flight. I have diverted due to people fighting and had them removed. It comes in all shapes and forms. But yeah.
So how does that conversation go when you're having to challenge somebody before they've even got on the aircraft?
It's just have a little chat with them, see what state they're in. Then if I tell them they're not travelling, normally I've made the right decision, because at that point they become very violent.
Yeah.
So it's, you're definitely not going now.
Right.
Let's get the authorities involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's normally an easy call because they normally stink of drink.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
not pleasant. Not pleasant to have to deal with.
No, it happens daily, sadly.
When you're at the flight levels, Andy, and that kind of happens, you get something happen at when you're up there cruise. I'm guessing you obviously can't leave the flight deck, so it's a crew that make that decision that we've got some passengers here, they're not getting better. We need we'll call you on the flight deck and say, Andy, we need to go down ASAP.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's totally fine by me.
Yeah.
I'm not out there dealing with it. If they're done, then I'm done.
Yeah.
Time to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So presumably there exists a sort of certain level of trust, and you're having to rely on the on the crew there to kind of make that judgment for you to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, if you're drunk and you sit down, you go to sleep, and that's the end of it, no problem. Once you're in flight, if you start causing trouble to the point where the crew are done with you, then obviously the cabin crew as well, especially cabin managers or the senior or whatever your airline calls them, they're very experienced. They've seen it all before in all of the roles,
Yeah.
so they know.
Yeah.
They can look at them and know when it's about to go downhill.
Right.
And so if they call me up and say, look, we need to divert, this is too much, never a question from me.
Wow.
Let's get it on the ground and get rid of them.
Yeah.
I have to ask, Andy, the worst route. I know we talk about Ibiza as being the party capital of Europe, which I think Malta has vastly overtaken Ibiza now. But anyway, is that the worst, or is that the worst route?
I don't know statistically. I've diverted on many other destinations. Yeah,
Magaluf?
so I wouldn't know.
No. Yeah.
No, that's not normally a problem down to sort of down to Palma, but other places in Southern Europe, yeah.
Mike is asking in the chat room, and if you have to land or divert because of an unruly passenger, is that passenger then banned from your airline permanently?
Well, I don't normally get to find out that bit, but we just pass on all the details, and normally they are given a ban for X amount of years, and if it's really bad, then obviously we have the police involved and we go for prosecution.
Ow. So that'll be a lesson. Before you go on a plane, don't drink to extent. If you're going to have a scotch, have one on the way there, whilst, flying, or two, and leave it at that. Just enjoy the lovely warm paninis and, those the gorgeous food that your airline serves you. Anyway, Nick, you've got the next story, all about cargo and Brexit.
Yes, unfortunately. I thought we'd left Brexit behind, but it still seems to keep biting us on the backside. So this one comes from theguardian.com. The headline is Brexit red tape forces UK cargo airline to fly to the US for routine servicing. A fledgling British cargo airline has said Brexit red tape has forced it to go as far as the US for routine servicing and repairs, huge environmental and financial costs. The chief executive of One Air, Chris Hope, said the last government failed to do any Brexit impact assessment for aviation, and the sector was concerned that Labour would make similar mysterious omission when it opens talks with the EU about a reset in the cross-channel trading relationship. The company has criticised post-Brexit rules that require British pilots to be formally re-examined for identical qualifications in the EU at substantial cost, while engineers' hard-earned licences are rendered practically worthless outside of Britain. Part of the problem is the lack of mutual recognition for those with professional qualifications between the EU and the UK, something that also causes problems for architects and accountants. One Air's problem is compounded by its position as the only company in the UK operating Boeing 747s. Servicing and maintenance infrastructure for the aircraft is fast disappearing as passenger airlines have switched to Airbus since the pandemic. Bit of a sweeping generalisation, but there we go. As part of the Brexit arrangement, EU-based aircraft engineering companies in the bloc could apply to be recognised in the UK before the end of 2022, but there were no takers for the 747. It means that One Air is forced to fight for slots in the one repair workshop in Germany recognised in the UK, or go to the US for work to be done. In the 7 months of this calendar year so far, we've had 2 services that had to go to the US, and this kind of incremental cost difference is approaching $500,000 for each of them, Hope said, resulting in costs so far of $1 million. He's good at his maths. It's possible for EU organisations to get UK approval, but they would have to apply to the UK as if they were a new operator, and it is duplicate regulations, which is very involved. The cost and time of doing that is quite prohibitive to potentially service a 2 or 3 aircraft fleet. Similar issues have occurred in the industrial chemical industry, with huge costs associated with compliance to 2 sets of regulations, both stemming from the same original EU legislation. So the article does go on from there, but I think we get the gist of it, that basically, it's a bit of an outlying situation, this one, for this particular operator, given that they're using 747s. But Andy, I don't doubt that you've seen some licensing hassles of your own following Brexit.
Yep. Up until Brexit, I was allowed to fly the same aeroplanes painted in the same colours with just different registrations. But now I'm not allowed to unless they re-register them in the UK. And then I can fly them.
So the aircraft themselves have to be registered in the UK?
Yep. Can't fly anything that's not registered in the UK on a UK licence.
Wow. And is that a licensing thing or is that an insurance thing?
No, that's licensing.
Gosh.
I'd need an EU license to fly an aircraft registered in, sorry, an EASA license to fly an aircraft registered in the EASA state.
And
It has caused lots and lots of problems.
and what would be the process then for you to get an EASA license?
Now I would have to resit all 14 ATPL written exams, which are exactly the same as the ones that I sat many years ago, and I'd have to do a flight test as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, pretty onerous process.
Yeah, but hopefully, hopefully going forward, there will be some agreement between the authorities. In my current role, I have to work across 3 different sets of rules. Switzerland was always different, but the UK and EASA were were aligned when we were as EASA members. But now they've got different sets of regulations. Slowly, they're starting to diverge from each other, whereas they're trying to maintain. To be fair to EASA and the CAA, they are trying to maintain commonality, ready for the day that we do actually get agreement that we can work with each other again. But yeah, Brexit has caused lots of problems to aviation.
Yeah.
So it sounds like what you're actually suggesting is that moving forward, politicians might agree to do something that uses common sense.
Well, we'd hope so, and that's why the authorities are trying to use common sense. And again, that's a big, bold statement saying the aviation authorities are using common sense.
No, I said politicians,
But
which is an even more bold statement.
well, yes, I mean, aviation authorities are wild cards. But yeah, hopefully one day we can get the recognition again to be able to operate. But then the other issue, of course, getting into Brexit is that the right to live and work as well, which is another issue altogether. That's
Yeah, because I would imagine that there could be a situation, for example, where a British pilot worked for Lufthansa, say, or Air France, or some other foreign operator that suddenly overnight they would almost effectively find themselves out of work, presumably.
Well, before Brexit, in the transition period, anybody who was living in Europe and working there was allowed to apply for residency and stay there and carry on doing the job. But now that period has passed, it's nigh on impossible to do it unless you've got a dual passport, stuff like that.
Yeah, fair enough.
So with airlines like Ryanair then, Andy, where they've got
Yep.
Irish registered aircraft and 9 hotel registered aircraft
And Gulf registered.
and Gulf registered aircraft,
Yep.
that must be a right nightmare.
Tricky from a scheduling point of view, I should imagine.
Yep, absolutely.
Blimey. Oh dear. Well, anyway, we can't go back, can we? We can only go forward. Anyway, next story is coming to us from the independent.co.uk. And this is all about London City Airport's expansion approved as millions more passengers planned. You have not flown at London City, have you, Andy?
No. My
No.
aircraft's way too big.
Way too big. Yes. The government approved plans to expand capacity at London City Airport by 2.5 million passengers. The move outturns parts of a previous local decision, but keeps a ban on Saturday afternoon flights. The airport has sought to expand annual capacity to 9 million passengers, up from 6.5 million passengers by 2031. It wanted to take a number of measures, including seeking permission to push back a curfew period. The decision is one of the first big infrastructure plans calls made by the new Labour government elected in July since taking office. And ministers have pledged to keep streamlining planning processes and boost construction in all sectors, but have also been forced to cancel some projects due to funding constraints. London City Airport said it welcomed the increase to the passenger cap, but it was disappointed the government had not approved to extend Saturday operating hours, saying it would cause airlines to introduce cleaner and quieter aircraft more slowly at the site. They said, "We are committed to securing the long-term future of the aviation sector in the UK while protecting our environmental obligations," a government spokesperson said in a statement. The airport's hours of operation are currently restricted to 6:30 a.m. till 10:30 p.m. on weekdays, 6:30 a.m. till 1 p.m. on Saturdays, and 12:30 until 10 or 12:30 in the afternoon till 10:30 p.m. on Sundays. Environmental think tank Green Alliance said the decision was disappointing and set a worrying precedent for the new government, although one local campaign group said the rejection of Saturday afternoon flights was a big win for residents. The plan was initially rejected back in July 2023 by Newham Council, which runs the borough in which the airport operates, over a range of objections such as potential impact of the expansion on climate, air quality and noise. You know, I've never flown into or out of or been to London City Airport before, but I didn't think they've got room to expand, or I might be wrong. I don't know. Anyone else been there before as a passenger? Or
Yeah, many times I used to live just down the road from City Airport. It was quite handy. But yeah, there's not a lot of room there. I mean, to expand, do they mean by having more operating hours?
I think it's whether it's the operating hours, but I mean they're going to have to expand the building itself to accommodate, I'd have said, the extra 2.5 million passengers that they're hoping to put through that airport, or whether extending the operating hours will allow that amount of throughput of passengers. I don't know.
Possibly, I don't know. I mean, there's no room there. It's a tiny, tiny place. Unless they go further into the actual dock area with more land. We'll see. That's
I think they've got roads at each end, though, haven't they? I don't know. They might be able to extend it possibly at one end a little bit, the runway.
They can't take the terminal any further back because the DLR's there in the way, the Docklands Light Railway as well.
Definitely on my list of one that I'd like to try. I know that this summer BA have been running from Exeter to London City. It used to be a good route with Flybe, but sadly no longer. But definitely going to give it a go at some point.
Isn't it London City, Andy, that has the very strange the glide path approach?
Oh yeah, it's extremely steep. And when the A318s used to operate in there for British Airways, they had to have a modification made to the spoiler system to allow the spoilers to deploy, to allow it to slow down and keep the steep glide.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
good bit of trivia.
There's a button on the overhead panel for it.
Because it's an 11-degree approach, isn't it? I think.
I don't know. I'd have to check that.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's the 318 is the biggest they can fly.
I'd say it was probably a 6-degree would be the steepest.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure one of our chat room members will probably know the answer.
Captain Cruz in the chat room says flew there on Fokker 50s. Apparently, he says there in the chat room, but they are a little bit smaller. So
there we go. It's 5.5 degrees. I wasn't far out.
I was wildly off.
Yeah, because I think it's BA fly the Embraer. Is it the 175s?
City Flyer, yeah, they do.
Yeah. They had those parked at Norwich Airport for a while during the pandemic. But we'd have to take a visit there, Andy. Get the P2K team there for a day.
It's pretty good for spotting there, actually. I mean, I've been to Excel for a few different shows, and you can sort of sit across the water and just watching the planes coming in. There's it can be certainly when I've been there at the weekend, it's been quite busy, and there's quite a lot to see. It's quite entertaining.
I know a couple of good pubs around there as well. We could go
to. Why doesn't that surprise me?
Anyway, what you two like? Need a beer now. Andy, you've got the next one.
Yes.
It's a top 10. We haven't had a top 10 for a while.
Yes, so this is the world's top 10 most connected airports in 2024. And to spoil it already, Istanbul is the most connected airport in 2024, serving 309 unique destinations. With major operators Turkish Airlines, and the major routes are to Antalya, Ankara, Tehran, London Heathrow and Moscow. Second is Frankfurt Airport with 296 destinations. Third is Paris-Charles de Gaulle Airport with 282 destinations. Amsterdam is in fourth place with 270. Chicago O'Hare International Airport is the first US airport on the list, also with 270 destinations. Then in sixth, Dubai International Airport with 269 destinations. Seventh, Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport with 261 destinations. Next up is Shanghai International with 243 destinations. In ninth, Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson International Airport with 237. And in 10th, Rome Leonardo da Vinci Fiumicino Airport with 234 destinations. London Heathrow, which was ranked 8th in 2023, has now dropped out of the top 10 and is currently positioned 12th. So there we are.
Oh. Most connected airports. Sounds like that's the sort of airports you want to go to that have got the most people who can help you, you know, in that way. Most connected airports. Oh, turn, Andy, turn down, turn. Oh, it is. Sorry. Yes, that's my fault. There we go. Is that better?
That's better. I can hear you now.
I'm surprised I could hear myself while I was reading that.
Oh, was it quite loud? It doesn't seem very loud to me in here. It's the way it's set up here in the studio.
In other news, I think I've just won a speedboat, so that's good.
Oh, that's fine. That's even better then. Do you know, I need to go to this Istanbul airport because it is just so. It just looks.
Yeah, that is
huge.
astonishing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah,
that's come out. It's because they switched across to that, didn't they? What was it? A couple of years ago that one opened, because they already had a pretty big airport there, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, we're just
Yeah.
going to build another one now and open that up and see how that goes.
Yeah, the main airport in Istanbul had become surrounded by residentials. There was no expansion available.
Right.
And Turkish want to be massive. They want to be the Emirates and Etihad of Europe. So that's why they've built this huge facility. Every time I fly over it, even up at 39,000 feet, you look down, it's just huge.
Huge, yeah.
That's
Dubai
quite
as
impressive. You wouldn't necessarily expect from a country like Turkey to be able to funnel the money into building something like that, would you?
No, but they found it.
Yeah. And I have to say, I'm really surprised by Rome Fiumicino being number 10 there, because again, I mean, I know it's, you know, obviously Rome itself is a major hub within Italy, but Italy itself, you know, you'd think that maybe, you know, somewhere like Munich would be on there. I mean, I know that Frankfurt's number 2, which wasn't a surprise, and obviously Amsterdam as well. But yeah, even for Heathrow to be outside the top 10, big surprise.
Well, it's unique destinations, though, isn't it? And Heathrow is mainly a hub for several airports over in America, and then several the other way, the big ones.
Right. Yeah.
Nick, you've got the next story. I like this because these fly over us all the time here. These VIP helicopters.
Well, not so much anymore, potentially. Yes, this sort of might divide opinion amongst us aviation enthusiasts, possibly. But yeah, so this news came out earlier in the week. This particular article comes from verticalmag.com. The headline is UK government cancels VIP helicopter contract. So the UK government has reportedly cancelled a VIP helicopter contract after the former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak faced criticism for his use of private aircraft on short domestic flights. British media say Sunak's successor, Keir Starmer, has cancelled the contract valued at an estimated £40 million to distance the new Labour Party government from spending habits under the previous 14 years of Conservative Party rule. Sunak frequently flew in a government Leonardo AW109 SP helicopter operated by the number 32, the Royal Squadron of the RAF, and the aircraft is used for site-to-site transportation for senior military commanders and government ministers in the UK and Europe. The helicopter service had operated from RAF Northolt since 2006. In December 2023, The Guardian reported Sunak personally intervened to prevent the contract from being scrapped. It was scheduled to end in September of that year. An investigation by the BBC found that Sunak used RAF jets and helicopters on domestic flights, more than each of Britain's 3 previous prime ministers. Critics pointed to the use of private aircraft for short trips as an expensive alternative to low emissions travel like high-speed trains. Sunak boarded 23 domestic flights in 187 days, an average of 1 flight every 8 days, the BBC reported. Private aviation has long been a lightning rod for controversy. Its defenders point to time savings and data security for private flights for VIP and business leaders in comparison to public and commercial transport. Opponents see it as a decadent symbol of government waste. A notice from the UK Ministry of Defence notes a previously issued tender for a 5-year rotary wing command support contract was withdrawn on July the 28th of this year. So there we go. I mean, as much as we're all aviation fans here, yeah, I don't know. I personally think it's probably a good thing. It seems like a bit of a waste of money when we have high-speed rail, for example.
You may have high-speed rail.
But yeah, I don't know what you guys think.
Well, not getting into the politics of it, but I do think it's good that it's been canned. There's plenty of train services out of central London everywhere, and by the time you've got to Northolt and then flown somewhere, well, there you go.
Yeah.
It does have its place at times, but overuse is bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, you know, if you're going to maybe a location where security might be tricky, should we say, you could see that there could be situations where a helicopter could be more favourable. But yeah, I don't know.
To be fair, if someone said to me, "Do you want to, take this Augusta, or whatever helicopter, Eurocopter to work tomorrow rather than drive?" Yeah, I'd probably want to take the helicopter. To be fair.
Yes.
If you've seen the traffic on Victoria Road in Diss on at 8 o'clock on a weekday morning, you'd understand why it's better to fly.
Is that the reason why the corridors of power are not located in Diss, because of the traffic?
Oh dear, honestly. Living in a rural-ish area that we do, well, yeah, you'd see why. It's all right for you, Andy, living up there in the big smoke.
In the big smoke, I live in the north, mate, away from everybody. It's great.
Oh, the North Smoke.
Well, yeah, it's nice out here. It's nice and quiet.
Unlike you, young Nick, living out there in the glorious countryside. Down south.
It's not too bad. It's you definitely notice when you drive down away from London, you kind of reach a point in Hampshire where the traffic starts to melt away a little bit, and it's not too bad. It's I'd sooner be down here, I think.
Now, talking of posh flying and executive stuff, Andy, you've got the next one this is all about business jets and stuff.
Yes, this is from aerospaceglobalnews.com, and it's titled "The Last Plastic Straw, Calculating the CO2 of Starbucks' Corporate Jet Commute." It's a trope recurrent in the mainstream media. A high-net-worth individual is witnessed harnessing the benefits of private aviation and is subsequently vilified on social media, with increasing reference to the smallest of substitutes, the paper straw. Another billionaire contributed to climate change while we sip from soggy straws, claim the disgruntled comments. However, this week's corporate aviation use case has particular relevance to the beverage-focused frustration with the incoming Starbucks CEO coming under criticism for his private jet commute. God, there's a lot of alliteration in that one. "I have long admired Starbucks' iconic brand, unique culture and commitment to enhancing human connection around the world," announced Starbucks' incoming CEO Brian Niccol, who, as per the terms of his job offer letter, agreed to make a weekly journey from his residence in Newport Beach, California, to the coffee giant's headquarters in Seattle, Washington. However, it is the way in which Starbucks CEO will perform the commute, estimated to be less than 1,000 miles, that is garnering negative attention. Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA registry information states Starbucks currently has 2 Gulfstream G550s at its disposal through Seattle-based subsidiary Capital Asset Leasing, although Starbucks has not confirmed the type Nickel will commute with. Produced from 2003 to 2021, the G550 has a capacity for 18, although it is more commonly configured for 8 to 10 executive passengers. However, assuming Long Beach to be the nearest suitable airport for the likely candidate of the G550, a 25-minute drive, its flight time of around 1 hour 45 minutes to Seattle Boeing Field, not accounting for weather, fuel reserves, or other diversions. Aircraftcharteradvisors.com estimate the type's fuel burn to be 438 gallons an hour, which, when combined with the U.S. Energy Information Administration's carbon emissions figures for jet fuel, works out as 9.75 kilograms a gallon, equating to around 15 metric tons of CO2 emissions produced per round trip. Whilst it's important to stress the above calculations are broadly speculative, just how do those estimated 15 metric tons equate back to the notion of offsetting them with the much maligned soggy paper straw perspective? In 2018, Starbucks opted to ban plastic straws by 2020, eliminating more than 1 billion units a year. Online reference Shop Without Plastic estimates a single eliminated plastic straw saves 0.48 kilograms of CO2, so half a kilogram, meaning that a year without Starbucks plastic straws would prevent the creation of 480,000 metric tons of CO2. That's an estimated 32,000 round-trip G550 commutes, offset by customer switches, potentially a lot higher than initial expectations. Private aviation remains a vital tool for connectivity and shortening distances, making face-to-face connections possible, and for corporations able to adopt its benefits, can be seen as essential assets. However, with sustainability issues increasingly at the forefront of individuals' and companies' considerations, it will doubtlessly continue to divide public debate. Now, it's very, very good eliminating the plastic straws with the horrible soggy ones, but surely that's not an excuse for this commute once a week.
I mean,
It's a tricky one, isn't it?
I feel bad driving here to the studio at Matt's tonight. You know, it's less than a mile from my front door, but I drove here in the car. Mainly because it was raining. But
for me now, with all the travelling that I do, up and down the country, I use the trains. I don't drive anymore. I use the trains.
That's a good idea.
Well, it's twofold. On the train, I can actually work and get home. It's not lost time. And also I'm not driving.
Yeah.
But America's rail system is atrocious.
Yes, that is true. I have to say, I was a bit in two minds whether or not to include this article this week, because it's sort of, again, as with the last article, as fans of aviation, we don't want to be, decrying the kind of carbon emissions and saying how bad everything is. But it was really interesting to see the statistics there about this kind of savings by switching away from plastic straws. And I'm sure we all like to do our bit with our recycling and all the rest of it. But it is interesting to see that actually the private jet actually wasn't as bad as we thought. I mean, it still produces a lot when you look at it, per seat use. And I think aviation does get a lot of stick for that, with airlines getting quite a lot of criticism for their carbon emissions. But actually, I have seen some kind of miles per gallon per seat statistics for high occupancy airliners, and actually, it's fairly comparable to what you'd expect from a car.
It's better. It's far more efficient than a car over distance.
Right.
That these smaller jets are not. And, I'm a huge proponent of aviation. Obviously, I work in the industry, but we need it to survive. Otherwise, there's nothing for us to get enjoyment from, is there?
Right.
So, you've got to get the balance.
True.
You should just do a Zoom call once a week, in my opinion.
Yeah.
which is
Do you,
which is what the company that I work for currently do a lot more of now than they used to. Everything we do now, because we US owned, our company is owned by the US, and everything we do nowadays is done in a boardroom through Zoom calls. Well, sorry, I rephrase it. I use Teams, which is an awful platform to use, I'm going to have to say, but they do use video calling for all the conference stuff. So
Yeah.
Andy, have you ever given any thought to any kind of carbon offsetting for all the travel that you do?
drink less beer.
I mean, that must produce a lot of carbon, the beer that I drink. I have thought about it. And I do, there are certain things you can do, like paying into things, and I do put a bit of money here and there for trying to offset bits of carbon. But at the end of the day, it's part of the job. The company's doing a lot as well that I work for to try and offset carbon. So it's all in hand. But I'm no eco warrior. I'm not going to start wearing hemp trousers and not washing and stuff like that,
Glad to hear it.
So, next story. We had to have a story like this eventually. We've had Boeing stories for the last God knows how many weeks on the show. Sorry, Andy, but this one comes to us from UKAviation.news. Cathay Pacific suspends A350 flights for urgent inspections. Cathay Pacific has temporarily grounded this week its fleet of Airbus A350 airliners as a precautionary measure after discovering a failed engine component after a Zurich-bound flight returned to Hong Kong shortly after takeoff yesterday. Or this week, I should say. The airline says the failure is the first of its kind and has notified Rolls-Royce, which makes the Trent XWB engines. Airbus has said about the issue before deciding to check all of its A350s. In a statement, the airline said this week the component was the first of its type to suffer such a failure on any A350 aircraft worldwide, the airline said. We immediately brought the issue to the attention of the aircraft and engine manufacturers as well as the regulators. As a precautionary measure, also proactively initiated a fleet-wide inspection of the 48 A350 aircrafts that the airline has. Cathay said it's working with the Hong Kong Civil Aviation Authority to clear aircraft back to flying status and after repairs if necessary, adding the aircraft cleared for operation will return to service while those identified with technical issues will undergo further repairs and maintenance work. The A350 forms the backbone of Cathay's long-haul fleet together with the Boeing 777 and A330. The airline has 30 A350-900s and 18 A350-1000s with 6 A350 freighters on order. Cathay has not specified yet which engine components failed in particular flight, but the carrier said it was the first of its type to suffer such a failure with any A350 aircraft worldwide, as we said. After inspecting the fleet, it said it found an engine fuel lines that required replacement in 15 of the A350s. The source said the incident involved a leak in a system designed to inject fuel into the XWB-97 engine, the Rolls-Royce model used on the A350-1000. The system comprises of a pipe that feeds fuel from an entry point or manifold to a nozzle that sprays fuel into the combustion chamber on the hot inner core of the engine. Sources said partially scorched parts were being analysed at Rolls-Royce facilities on behalf of Hong Kong investigators, but it had no leaks that have been found so far in other engines. So technically, not really an issue with Airbus as the aircraft manufacturer. This is more of an engine issue with Rolls-Royce. So yeah, we'll let you off of that one, Andy.
Oh, phew. I mean, I'm not a representative of Airbus either, you know, mate.
No, I know you have flown Boeing products in the past, haven't you, Andy?
Well, simulators anyway, yes.
Yeah, in sims, yeah. But yeah, be interesting to see. There's always seems to be with these new engines. These engines get more efficient, more larger bypass fans. But I think the bigger these engines get, that seems to be the more issues they tend to have spring up with these. You know, going back to the Dreamliner, was it the Trent? Was it the Trent?
There was a lot of trouble with the Trent early on, wasn't there? And I think they had a lot of grounded aircraft for a while, didn't they?
The RB211 bankrupted Rolls-Royce back in the day, if you remember rightly.
That was a
mega
incredible engine.
But the original version bankrupted them, and it had lots of problems. And the CFM56 had a lot of problems when it started, and that is now the most widely used engine in the world. So, this is just par for the course, really. It's great that they found it, and they can do something about it. And that's why the inspection rate on these aircraft, and it was probably flagged by the systems as well, they're so reliable, and they've got so much data they can get from them.
Well, and not only that, they have...
really good.
Sorry, Andy. I was going to say that Rolls-Royce themselves have live telemetry, don't they?
Yeah. Back in Derby, they've got big screen. They've got all the live telemetry from every live engine on a wing.
So I'm wondering whether or not that might have been what picked the problem up in the first place. I don't know what how the problem presented itself with the particular aircraft that was affected. I was a bit in two minds whether or not to include this story because it's still kind of emerging and we don't really know the full ins and outs of it yet. And it's going to be interesting to see how it develops to find out a little bit more about the sort of the technical details of what's actually occurred. But no doubt Rolls-Royce are going to be scrambling around to try and make some fixes, presumably. I don't know if you've heard any more about it, Andy, from a technical point of view.
No, nothing. I just saw in the news that this had happened, and no, I haven't seen anything else.
What would be, from your perspective, in terms of your kind of technical understanding of how the different systems work within the engine, would that be something that you would be expected to have a kind of a technical knowledge of to any great level?
Nah. Now, when it comes to power plants, it's basically... We know about how many compressor stages it has and the normal parameters we expect to see, and then what to do when it's not a normal parameter. But down into the nitty gritty, there's enough to remember anyway for us to fly these modern aircraft. We don't want to get into the depths of what each pipe does and nut and bolt and stuff. So no.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, too much to remember. I've got a very little brain.
Information goes in, information has to come out to make room for it.
Correct, yes. And I'm worried that one day it will push out something important like how to walk or something like that, so try to limit the information I take in.
Yeah, that's a good point.
As long as it doesn't push out your the list of favourite beers from your head, Andy.
Oh, no.
Nick, you've got the next story, and we've every now and again on the show we cover the stories like this where there's passengers getting rather upset on board aircraft, but this one is happening in the airport, and it's quite a traumatic one. We've got the video, we'll play it out in a bit as well.
Yeah, I think we sort of quickly read the story first and then play the video afterwards. But a gentleman that's got a little bit upset. So this one came from irishstar.com. And the headline is "Furious Passenger Smashes American Airlines Equipment with a Hammer, Causing $20,000 worth of damage after buying a fake ticket." So a man smashed computers at the American Airlines check-in counter with a hammer after being told that his ticket was fake. The man, who was hoping to fly to Florida, was informed that the ticket he presented at check-in was invalid. He was sold the fake ticket by a scammer. The incident was caught on camera in Chile, outside Santiago's Nuevo Pudahuel airport. I normally save the funny pronunciations for you, Carlos. But,
thanks, sir. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, no worries. From Santiago's airport, let's just call it that. The man, who was originally from Haiti, had a verbal altercation with an American Airlines worker who informed him that he would not be permitted to board the plane. In a fit of rage, the man took a hammer from his bag. Okay, interesting choice of things to have in your bag, but there we go. And began smashing the computer screens. Frightened bystanders captured the moment on video, and authorities said that the man had caused $20,000 worth of damage. Nobody was injured in the violent incident. So, some questions.
So,
Why did he have a hammer?
Yes, let's have a little look at the video.
So we'll run the video for anyone who likes computer monitors and loves computer monitors. You'll find this video very distressing. But
look away now.
We'll run the video. Here we go. he says. And the video's not running. Oh no, hold on. Talk amongst yourselves. We'll get the video back up on.
So yeah, as you quite rightly asked, Andy, why did he have a hammer? I mean, I've travelled for work where I've had lots of baggage, where I've been carrying tools and spare parts for fixing machines and stuff like that. But that would be kind of checked baggage. I certainly wouldn't be generally. I mean, aside from anything else, hammers are really heavy and not great for your baggage allowance. So yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one to take to the airport, isn't it?
Right, we're ready to go. Are you ready? Here we go. Alfie's joining in as well with this one.
So he's having a good old prowl around, looking for some stuff to smash. Oh, there we go.
You know what I said earlier, especially with drunk passengers, you know as they walk across the tarmac that they're not getting on. This bloke's definitely not getting on.
He's got a bit of a particular gait to him, hasn't he?
He's very angry.
Yes, he looks quite upset.
He's rather upset. I mean...
So my question at this point is, okay, you bought a fake ticket. That's unfortunate. How did you think that, A, smashing up a bunch of monitors was going to resolve that issue? But B, how did you also think that that might aid your onward travel plans?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. We've realised your ticket's fake, but because you've got so angry, we're going to offer you a complimentary first-class ticket and access to the lounge. That's never going to happen, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I get that he's upset. He might have spent all his worldly money on said ticket.
Perhaps he was booked in first class.
Well, yeah, but that's no way to go about. It's not going to do you any favours.
Equally, being in an airport, which is somewhere where you're likely to have many forms of identification, he's probably not going to be getting away with it.
No.
I mean, he might get offered a job on a DIY program somewhere.
But what's very, very good is nobody was hurt.
Well, yeah.
That's the main bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, hey-ho.
That's a lovely one from Richard Adams there. Perhaps he was hammered.
Very good.
Props guy says, and then the person at the desk said, "Oh, sorry, it was a genuine ticket."
I'm afraid that ship has now sailed.
Yes.
That was quite the video, though. Definitely video, and it was filmed in vertical video, hence the reason it was a bit squished in that. If you're watching on YouTube, but
don't tell Nev.
Yeah, don't tell Nev, blimey. But yes, Andy, do you want to take the last story, because we have got a video to play, which I'm going to play while you're doing this story, if you would mind, please, sir.
Yes, no problem. This one is 2 more Chinese carriers take Chinese Comac C919 deliveries. 2 more Chinese airlines have joined China Eastern in taking delivery of Chinese-made Comac C919 passenger jets. Air China and China Southern Airlines have both received the aeroplanes at a handover ceremony at Comac's factory in Shanghai. Each single-aisle passenger formation jet is equipped to carry 192 passengers along with cabin and flight crew. Both are expected to fly the aircraft on regional trips within China and will likely receive second jets before the end of 2024. Comac said 1,000 units have been ordered in total as it attempts to break into the international duopoly of Airbus and Boeing in the passenger jet market. The narrow-body C919 and the medium-range ARJ21 model were showcased in Singapore early this year before embarking on a tour of Southeast Asia. The third member of the Comac family is the wide-body jet, the C929, which is currently under development. The baseline version of the C929 accommodates 280 seats with a range of 12,000 kilometres, effectively meeting the global demand for international and regional air passenger transport, according to the manufacturer. Homegrown aviation is one of several development areas seen by the government in Beijing as the key to China's continued economic and international development. It is expected the Chinese aviation market will double in size over the next 20 years, and more than 8,000 planes will be needed to keep up with passenger demand.
It looks nice, but will this do as well as, the the leaders, Airbus and Boeing. I mean, what do you think, Andy, as a pilot yourself? I think it looks very similar to the Airbus, and I think looking at the flight deck pictures which I've seen online, it's quite very much Airbus-like. What do you think?
Yes, well, why change a good designer?
The 929 kind of looks like a cross between a Dreamliner and a Airbus A220, I think.
And is the ARJ21 a rear-engined T-tail? Looking at the picture,
Oh, I must have missed that one.
the pictures in the show notes. It looks like it is.
If I put this picture on the screen, I don't know whether you can see that one. It's a bit of a blurred picture. Nick, you've got a very low resolution picture there, Nick.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm just doing a bit of frantic googling. See if I can find out.
It looks like a DC-9 knockoff or an MD knockoff or something like that.
Yeah, just looking at that now on the Wikipedia page. Actually, that's
Captain Cruz.
Source for all good information.
Captain Cruz says that's an MD-95 knockoff, Andy.
Ah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's coming from my my motorcycling perspective. We're starting to see a big rise of Chinese manufacturers now having quite a big presence in the UK market, and there's been a great deal of sort of speculation about what the quality's like and the kind of long-term reliability. But I think it's a bit like when Japanese cars started coming into the UK and Europe sort of in the 1970s, and everybody was very skeptical, and then they kind of realized, no, actually these are quite good. Sort of takes a little while for people to trust them and to believe that they are a good, robust quality product. But I guess it could take a bit of time in order for airlines, in Europe and North America to be convinced, I suppose.
Yep. Data, lots of it, and reliable data. That's what's needed before airlines outside of China will start taking them.
I mean, you look at the Sukhoi Superjet.
Yes.
That a fantastic looking aircraft, but apart from having a sort of quite well known and widely publicized fiery landing on one of their jets, that just doesn't seem to have gone anywhere, does it? And yet that appeared to be a possible competitor to the A220. But again, it's whether or not
the only place I see the Sukhoi Superjet is in Antalya, because Russian operators can fly it in there.
Right, of course, yeah.
There was a factory in Venice for a long while for the Superjet.
Okay.
That just didn't go anywhere, and now that's mothballed. I think Leonardo might have taken it over now, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we'll see what happens with it. But they'll get plenty of sales within China because they've got 3 or 4 very large airlines, and they need a lot of regional flying.
Yeah.
The government are pushing it for these airlines to use homegrown products. So there'll be plenty of market for them internally.
It'd be interesting to see from my sort of professional background in working in engineering and manufacturing, to see how they've gone about sort of developing that as a, in inverted commas, new jet, and whether or not there's been any kind of degree of almost reverse engineering, existing designs, and whether or not they've sort of taken inspiration, if you like, from existing aircraft, or whether or not it's actually been a sort of clean sheet of paper and started from scratch.
I think there will have been a lot of inspiration, as you put it. That's a great way. A lot of inspiration.
Are we talking like the Concorde ski, the T144?
Well, I mean, the fact is when you're coming up with an engineering design for something, very often you are constrained by particular engineering principles, and obviously with an aircraft, those engineering principles are highly centered around aerodynamics and the flight control surfaces, and and that's why a lot of aircrafts all tend to look very similar to each other. So at the end of the day, you are going to be quite highly constrained about how an aircraft of a certain size and shape and capacity can look and will look.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, the Russians went a step further. The IL-62 was basically a carbon copy of the VC-10, but they couldn't stop the tail tipping, so they had to put a telescopic pole when it was on the ground to stop it tipping over. And the what's the other one? The IL-96 as well is sort of a fat version of an A340 as well. So there's plenty of copycats.
Yeah, the Tu-204
around the years.
The Russian Tu-204 was very similar to the 757.
757, yeah. There's lots of them out there.
Yeah. Well, there we go. That brings airline commercial news to a close this week. But it is time for the next part of the show, which is a firm favourite of many in the chat room this evening. And Nick, what have we got next?
Well, yes, I'm reading these notes blind because I haven't seen it myself. But in this week, we go back to 1987 and to an airline that was all smiles. But can you name the film that inspired this ad that came out in 1980? And my name is Nick, and don't call me Shirley.
There's an airline up here with comfortable 5 across seating on every flight. It's not this one. It has 6 across seating. Not this one. It's too crowded. This one? And certainly not these. Only one airline in the West gives you 5 across seating on every plane in the sky. PSA. So why sit still for anything less comfortable?
Catch our smile. PSA.
Slagging off other airlines in an advert.
What do you think of that?
Oh, that was brilliant. I'd actually forgotten the opening of Airplane where it shows the tails going through the clouds like that. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah. Very nicely done. I like that.
Yeah, Christy G got that in the chat room straight away. Airplane. Well done, Christy.
I still say we need to have a PT UK movie night where we watch Airplane, and Matt still hasn't seen it.
I know.
Gosh,
it's
we're going to have to stage an intervention, I think.
I would get it for him on DVD, but he doesn't know what those things are.
I thought you bought it for him.
Fashion. No, I acquired it through a that kind of way.
Stop talking.
Anyway, stop talking.
Off the internet, and we'll leave it at that.
No, but I will get round to him watching it at some point because it is.
Yeah, we're going to have to pin him down and make him watch it.
Such a good film. But that was our retro airline ad of the week. PSA. Remember that was they had the aircraft that had the smile. They had a smile at the front of the on the nose cone of the aircraft. I
expect Michael will remember those.
Yeah, actually, PSA were, and I have to say it because they were. PSA were one of the first customers for the L1011 TriStar back in the day, and it was PSA. Yeah, they were one of the first. Eastern were the first.
Yeah, that was Courtline.
And Courtline had them as well.
Yeah.
No, PSA had the smile as well. Yeah, if you look at the front of the PSA aircraft, you'll see. But PSA had the TriStars with the lounge bar in the underneath in like a lounge bar area, and they were I think they were either the one of only very few, or they were the only airline that had the TriStar with a lower bar area with seating and like a bar area. It was quite interesting to see. Google it if you've not seen it. It's quite interesting to see an airliner of that era with that kind of old school retro 70s style lounge with seating and a bar with like optics and drinks and stuff like that. It's quite nice. Oh,
Mike has come up in the chat room saying, what did PSA stand for?
What did PSA stand for?
He says he has the answer if you don't know.
Well, it's Pacific Southwest Airlines.
That sounds very plausible indeed. I
don't know whether Mike was coming up with a different answer there or not. Family friendly, Mike, family friendly. Pacific Southwest. Ding, 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 ding. Well, we'll have another retro airline out of the week next week. I have downloaded a few very nice little ones for next week as well. So we'll have them on next week's show. But it is time for the next part of the show. Nick, what is coming up next?
Well, it's time for a bit of the grey stuff.
Bit of the grey stuff. I'm sure I can press the right button here.
Blast up bogies 13550 Angel 16. Heading 340. Okay. 108 bogies.
Yeah, I looked up on the Zoom call and I thought, has Andy just fell off his chair? But he must have gone for a beer. This first story comes to us from bbc.co.uk. And drone pilot causes Royal Air Force to divert aircraft. I have to say, this picture on here, Nick, looks like a particular drone that I brought from a very popular low-cost app website kind of thing, beginning with
Yes,
T.
yes, I've heard you have a bit of a problem
Yes.
shopping on there.
An enthusiast who flew his drone so high that he caused the Royal Air Force to divert its flight showed a blatant disregard for the law, police said. Thomas Ling, 34, of Main Road, Brothertoft, pleaded guilty to 4 offences at Boston Magistrates Courts last Wednesday. He was handed fines costing a total of more than £1,200, and destruction order was imposed on his equipment. Well, they could have given it to me, I'd have had it. Rules set out by the CAA state that drones must be kept within visual line of sight to ensure they don't crash into a structure or cause a danger to aircraft, with a maximum height restriction of 400 feet or 120 metres. However, the police said between March the 1st and June the 18th, Ling had flown his first-person view drone at heights of up to 12,178 feet. Okay. On 26 occasions in the Boston area. Is this a drone, or is this one of those US Air Force UAVs? Lincolnshire Police Chief Drone Pilot said the safety manager, Kev Taylor, the regulations are there to ensure drones are operated safely without causing a risk to the public and airspace users. Ling's drone was adapted so that it could be flown at such a high altitude, often flying between 7,000 and 12,000 feet, he said. Mr. Taylor said the area where he had flown his drone was close to Royal Air Force Coningsby, home to the Typhoon jets, the Quick Reaction Force as well, and the Battle of Britain Memorial flight. Ling had shown and repeated a blatant disregard for the legislation and safety of both the publics and airspace users in Lincolnshire, he added. I have to say, that shocks me. I didn't realise that line of the DJIs and those, kind of UAVs, drones, if you want to call them, could go that high. That's news to me.
It must have been heavily modified to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the hardware is out there in order to fit a more higher powered propulsion unit, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is quite surprising. What I'm more curious to know actually is, how did he get caught? Because he's obviously a bit of a repeat offender and was doing this quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, was he either spotted by aircraft or? Yeah, that's what I'd like to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very little thing to come up on primary radar, and it won't have a
ADSB.
on secondary surveillance, yeah, on ADSB. So maybe they've just been watching them for a long time as well.
But 12,000 feet, that's incredible.
Yeah, and going by the picture as well, he was using a headset to fly it.
I mean,
Still, that is impressive.
It is technically impressive. And you would have to imagine that it could have been capable of producing some pretty interesting footage, I should have to imagine. But all the same, quite worrying as well that it's possible for what is effectively a hobbyist to be able to modify something to this extent.
I mean, I know they've got good range. The more expensive DJIs and other, the more expensive drones. I know the ranges are really good on them, but that's a vertical height. That's still 12,000 feet. What's that in miles?
Yeah.
Andy?
In miles, well, it's 3.7 kilometers.
So I guess from a point of view of risk to aircraft, Andy, what
Yeah.
what
Well,
would
disregard-
so if you're looking at something like the old sort of chicken test of firing chickens at the front of aircraft, what would be the kind of kilogram limit, if you like, for a typical airliner flying at normal cruise speed?
Well, the thing here is, I mean, 12,000 feet's not that high for an airliner. And
No.
disregard the military side. But up to 10,000 feet, you've got a speed limit of 250 knots. But the second you're 1 foot over that, you can do whatever you want. And aircraft can be flying 300, 400 plus knots. And even hitting something like a DJI at that speed is going to cause catastrophic damage.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's incredibly reckless what he was doing.
What would a drone of this size would be? Kind of what, 5 kilos, 4 or 5 kilos, maybe? I'm guessing.
No, if a DJI looking at the picture, it's going to be like what, 1-2 kilos.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
If that, I mean, yeah, it would have to have more weight than the very lightweight ones. Otherwise, getting up to that sort of altitude,
Yes.
the wind would just take it off in a direction you wouldn't be able to control it.
Yeah.
So it must have some mass to it.
Captain
Or
Cruz.
even so, say
Captain Cruz says in the chat room, what's in it for him to go up so high?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, the footage would be great, but you're starting to get in the realms of just look at Google Earth at that height, you know?
But
There's no need for you
presumably,
to go up there
the
yourself.
fact that he's doing it in proximity to places like RAF Coningsby, he's obviously
Yeah.
trying to capture aircraft. He must have some understanding or knowledge of where aircraft might be likely to be flying in order to try and capture them. So he's clearly trying to operate it in an environment where he's expecting to see aircraft.
Yeah. But it's just so reckless and so dangerous.
But unfortunately, we seem to keep having stories like this, don't we? And I feel like it just isn't going away, is it?
Yeah. No.
Doesn't seem to be stories like this come from the US, though, does there? We cover a lot of stories about this based in the UK, but you don't. I mean, how many stories have we had from the US about this kind of thing?
But the US has a lot of airspace compared to us. Our airspace is very dense. We don't have really that many areas where you're completely open to do whatever you want, unlike the US, where there's a lot of airspace you can do that. So maybe that's the difference. We're just a small island, really.
Well, as much as I would love one myself, they're far too expensive. And to be fair, I would probably, as I said to the guys at the stand at the drone summit when we were there earlier in Ireland this year, I'd end up crashing it within 10 minutes. 100%. That would end up in a hedge, field.
You'd be all right, because you could just go on Temu and buy some more blades.
My favourite website.
Your favourite website? Oh, dear. Let's join the club, shall we? Get together. But you can't buy beer on there, Andy. That's the only thing.
No.
Although you can buy some rather interesting aviation themed stuff on there. Just saying. Just putting out.
Anyway, let's move on.
Let's move on. Andy, you've got the next one, and this is all about an aircraft that we actually, Nick, we visited this aircraft at the Cosford Air Show last year, was it last year?
Last summer.
Yeah, last summer.
We did. Yeah. And that was Sorry, go on, Andy.
I was going to say this one's from aerospaceglobalnews.com, and it's the USAF celebrates 70 years of the Herc. Since its first flight on the 23rd of August back in 1954, the Lockheed Martin C-130 Hercules, nicknamed the Herc, has proved to be one of the most versatile and active aircraft in the US Air Force's fleet. Hercules have carried troops and supplies from the tundra of Antarctica to the deserts of the Middle East, to the tropical islands of the Pacific, and nearly everywhere in between, as well as serving as gunships, ISR aircraft, special operations platforms, tankers, and electronic combat aircraft. The USAF still operates 12 different C-130 models spread across 7 major commands and the Air National Guard, with 436 aircraft still active in the Air Force fleet. Moreover, the C-130 provides a vital plank in the US Air Force's effort to re-optimize for what the USAF calls Great Power Competition, GPC, with the new emphasis on Agile Combat Employment, ACE. This particularly is the challenging environment of the Pacific Theatre, meaning that the C-130 will need to continue evolving. To survive and operate in that environment, it will absolutely be on the backs of our C-130s, said Michael Beasley, the Mobility Director at C-130 Hercules Division Senior Material Leader. We're trying to squeeze out every bit of performance of this aircraft we can, because we know that we're probably the bedrock of that ACE concept. Once we get everything in theatre and we're in battle, we're going to keep that battle alive with the C-130 tactical transports, getting that stuff from island to island. Robbins Air Force Base, home of the Warner Robins Air Logistics Complex, is the central hub for depot maintenance and modernisation of the C-130, and around 50 of the aircraft visit the complex each year for planned depot maintenance, unplanned depot level maintenance, battle damage repair and modifications. The unit's efforts on weight reduction and efficiency improvements have been key to extending the aircraft's operational lifespan and its effectiveness in a variety of theatres. When needed, engineers from Robbins will deploy to resolve maintenance issues, keeping the global C-130 fleet flying and active. Warner Robins ALC has played a key role in keeping the C-130 fleet alive and equipped with technology and modernizations that make it a critical component of the contemporary Air Force fleet since 1964. These have included vital avionics upgrades aimed at increasing the aircraft's effectiveness in connectivity-contested environments. Particularly important are the real-time in-cockpit and dynamic retasking capability systems, which allow a C-130 to receive key information from command and control communication systems prior to entering a battle space, and provides the ability to forward this information off to advanced commanders. This increases the awareness of the aircrew, but also acts as a force multiplier. Effective and efficient maintenance is vital to keeping the mission running, especially in an era of great power competition, and so it was appropriate the base was chosen to host a C-130 70th anniversary celebration on the 23rd of August 2024. Well, there were lots of titles and acronyms I didn't understand in that, but happy birthday to the Herc.
Everyone loves a Hercules, right?
Beautiful big things.
Yeah, it's a pity that the RAF aren't flying them anymore. So we had, we obviously saw the anniversary aircraft at Cosford last year, but then that was just prior to the RAF retiring from service.
Speak amongst yourself. I'm just getting the caption list ready. So carry on.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just thinking, Carlos, you did a great interview, didn't you, with one of the crew there at Cosford, and yeah, there was a significant amount of personnel that were invested in the use of the C-130, and obviously it's such an iconic shape, isn't it? And I'm sure we've all seen online the jet-assisted takeoff and jet-assisted landings, some of which maybe didn't go so well. And in fact, they still do that, don't they? With the Blue Angels, have got their C-130 that does the jet-assisted takeoff.
I'm trying to think when that was. Very impressive. When we had that interview. Was it last June?
So it was June. The show was in June, I think. Yeah. That
was good. That was a good weekend we had there with us three there. But yeah. We've got another airshow visit coming up again this year, this year I should say, this month I should say. We have more news on that later. But yeah, definitely it's one of those aircraft that we're lucky enough to, because we live so far, or so close I should say, to so many US Air Force bases here, that we get the Hercules, the A400Ms, the V-22s, the Apaches. It's kind of a daily occurrence for us here, especially for where me and Matt live here, is that they're quite often flying around. Is that the same for you, Andy, where you live up north? I don't suppose you get that many kind of military stuff flying around your way.
We do, yeah, because we've got Lehman not far away, so we get a lot of hawks about. But from your neck of the woods and Coningsby and stuff, we get a lot of typhoons come up out over the countryside, then blast off out over the North Sea to go and do mad stuff at low level.
Yeah, we're starting to see a lot of A400s nowadays down in my neck of the woods. We get they fly out of Bryce Norton and do a lot of training flights over the southwest. Quite a bit of low-level flying over Dartmoor and Exmoor, and then they do a lot of touch and goes at Exeter Airport. So
Nice.
yeah, quite often see them. I had a couple of months ago. I was out on my motorbike having a nice little ride across North Devon, and I was sort of riding along a twisty little valley, and suddenly had an A400 fly right over the top of me, what seemed like about 400 feet. It was quite impressive. It was quite startling.
We get quite a few A400s flying into Teesside for circuit training and also Newcastle, and the occasional MRTT as well, the A330 as well.
330s, yeah. Right.
Proper aeroplane.
Caption this time. And pop the picture up. A bit late this week, but we still had quite a few comments. Did you get a chance to see the picture, Andy, for our Caption This?
Yes,
on the
I did,
Facebook
yeah.
page, yeah. So we'll pop it up on the screen. Let me just grab this from the file here. There we go. Popped up on the screen for those of you watching in the world of YouTube. Andy, describe for the listeners or the audio viewers as well what's going on in the picture here.
Yes, well, this is your typical scene in security at an airport. So you have the scanner and the belt going in, but unfortunately there's a set of legs sticking out of the actual X-ray machine. Right,
so kicking off, Nick, do you want to start us off with the first comment here?
Yeah, first one from Mazus. They put chimneys in funny places these days, thought Santa.
Very good. Andy?
This is from Gareth Sturman.
Bit controversial.
Yes, it is a bit. Isn't this a clip of Joe Biden boarding Air Force One?
Steve Tyre says Dr. Steph's automated backstabbing AI machine in action. Oh dear, honestly, she'll love that.
We got another one from Gareth Sturman. Sir, we meant take your shoes off first and then put them through the scanner.
Andy?
It's from John Falk. Stop oil protester goes to extreme lengths to halt travellers.
Neil Draper says the reason Mr. T ain't getting on no plane. Very good. He'd obviously got his glass of milk in there at the time. Next one.
Next one from Chris Eichel. He farted and it smelled like a bomb. Only one way to check.
Like that one. Daniel Seaman. Patient claims discrimination at Heathrow Airport after hip replacement.
Okay. Listener Alan White. We might all remember Alan from our trip to Dublin. He says the new sleep pods installed at Heathrow are a big hit. I think I'd like to sleep in there very long.
We got one from Kevin Murphy. Nev knew if he really had to take his belt off, his trousers would fall down. Only one solution.
And speaking of Nev, this is from Mrs. Nev. The waiting list was so long for an MRI scan, he decided to take matters into his own hands. I don't know if she's talking about Nev there.
Matt Caton. Matt, I used to work with Matt many years ago. He says they suspected my support mannequin of swallowing suspect packages.
Yes, it was an emotional support mannequin.
I like those.
Got some from the chat room. Richard Adams says Ryanair tested their sizing tool for the new ultra economy fare today. Very good. Just reading some more in the chat room, just making sure they're family friendly before I read them out on air.
Yes, main man Micah is saying that the NHS is not covering X-rays anymore.
Oh, blimey! I'll tell Gemma that one. She'll appreciate that one, Micah. Thanks. But no, it's good. Thank you for everyone for your comments this week. As always, very good. I'll try and get one up on there as ASAP. If you do have a funny aviation style picture that we could use as a caption, do send it in to us. Details coming up very soon indeed. Now, Nick, you've got your regular weekly plea to the listeners, haven't you? Because I don't think you've been listening.
No, it doesn't get me anywhere, but I'm going to keep asking. So, yeah, as you said, with any funny pictures, do send them in. Any audio that you want to record for us that we can play out on the show, or even any video, or even if you found an interesting article, please do send it in. We love for everybody to get involved. The reason we make the podcast is for you guys, the listeners. So, yeah, do get involved with the show and send it in. I think it's podcast@planetalkinguk.com.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, check me out.
And can I add a bit to that, Nick? If an inaudible northerner like myself can come on here and talk, you guys can record your bits and pieces and send them in. We'd love to hear them.
Yes, well said. Thanks, Andy.
There we go. Right, so we are off to an air show very soon indeed. A few weeks' time, we're all off to the Duxford Battle of Britain Memorial Air Show over at Cambridge at the Imperial War Museum in Duxford. We're going to be there on the 14th of September. So if you are or if you can make it, it'd be great to see you if you're listening to this show as an audio show later on. If you are out and about next weekend, so that's the 14th of September, we're going to be visiting Duxford for the day for the air show there. At the moment, the forecast is looking really good for next weekend, so that's really good news. If you've not already purchased your tickets, it is tickets in advance if you are going, so you need to go on the website and book your ticket for the show. It's £49.50, and children age 15 or under go free with a standard ticket. And if you're an Imperial War Museum member, such as myself and Matt Smith, and also Sturman from the chat room as well as a member, you get 10% off your ticket prices as well, including all the access to all the various things that go on around the UK that are run by the Imperial War Museum. But we'll be there on the 14th, on Saturday. Nev's going to be coming down. I'll be there as well. Hopefully Mr. Warner, I think, has said he's going to be there, and we've got a handful of people as well coming in from around the UK, and I think we've also got a couple of people coming in from across the pond as well, who are going to be joining us on the day there at Duxford. So it's going to be a big day, our usual kind of yearly event now when we meet up at the air show there for the Battle Boat Memorial display. It'd be great to see you there if you can make it. So that's next Saturday, that's the 14th of September, and it would be even better if Nick and Andy could be there. But I know, Andy, you're very busy, and Nick, you live about 386 million miles away from Duxford.
Well, you're going to send the PTUK jet down to pick me up, right?
Oh, I've got to think of the CO2 and the emissions and stuff.
Oh,
I was going to say, haven't you picked up this old government contract now to use the helicopter?
That would be an idea. I'll tell you what I could do, Nick. I could speak to Stuart O'Neill from our meet up at Beccles and see if he'll pick me up in the I forget what that was now that I flew with him.
I can't remember the name of it now.
Yeah.
Yes.
I could send him down. I mean, I doubt whether the range would get down to you, Nick, but I could come and get you, Andy. Get him to come and get you.
Oh, unfortunately, I am at work next week. Yes. Yeah.
They don't need you, Andy. Sorry. Just tell them you've got bigger work commitments.
Yeah, I'll give you my boss's number. You can ring him.
Would you let me do that? I'll give him a call.
No, I want to keep my job.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Right, social media links. Nick, where can our loyal listeners find out more about us if they don't already know, which they should do by now?
Yeah, so basically search for Plane Talking UK. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, and as mentioned before, it's podcast at plaintalkinguk.com if you want to send us an email. I should also mention we normally try and do a Patreon summary for all the lovely people that donate to the show.
Yep.
So yeah, we're going to do that next week. So, but yeah, if you want to help support the show, it is tremendously appreciated. It helps us to pay for things like all of our hardware that you see us all using to present the show to you, as well as all our sort of IT costs and all stuff like that. And it also helps us to attend events as well so that we can bring more content to the show. So yeah, if you want to get involved with that, you can find Plain Talking UK over on Patreon.
There we go. Find us on there, and we're great to have some feedback as well. So don't forget, if you do get a chance to send us some feedback, we can play it out on the show if you fancy being famous on PTUK. But yes, that's it. Bit quick round robin before we finish. We'll start with you, Nick. What are you up to next week? Or the weekend even, because we're near the weekend now.
Trying to wire up some indicators on my Ducati.
Sounds fun.
It's not. I hate doing electrics.
I'd love doing electrics. Bring it round mine.
Oh, okay, we'll
you're
do.
Too far away.
Brilliant.
Andy.
Yes. Yeah, I'm on a bit of a Euro trip from tomorrow all over the place, and I've just realised, even though I wasn't meant to be here this week, I don't think I'm going to be here for the next 3 weeks.
3?
Because of work. Yes, 3 weeks.
Nick, can we allow him to have this massive amount of time off from the show? I think this is...
Yeah, that is.
This is goes above or against the regulations of the show.
It's definitely going to be one to chat to the HR department about, I think.
Well, if you want to schedule a meeting, please do email me at complaints@PTUK.
That's another email address we're going to have to set up now.
Just going to have to bring back some duty free for us, Andy.
Oh,
Yes.
you lot sound like my wife. No, keep going away. That's what she's asking for at the moment. So yes,
Yeah, bottle of gin, that'll do nicely.
just text your order to me. Yeah, I'll sort it out.
Right, we're going to say a big thanks to all the chat room for joining us tonight. Thank you to everyone in the chat room as well, all our loyal chat room family for joining us on this Wednesday night. And also a big thanks as well to everyone who downloads the show as an audio podcast each week. Thank you for downloading the show and for supporting the podcast. We really do appreciate it. So, well, I'll leave Andy to do the sign off for this week, being as you're disappearing. And yes, Andy, over to you to say goodbye to everyone.
Yes, well, thank you all for joining us on YouTube and for downloading the podcast. I'll be back in a few weeks. So until then, take care.
Well, I think we just about got through that one, didn't we?
Top job.
Oh, thank you. Oh,
I was talking to Nick.
Crikey, have you got enough screens there?
do you like that?
That is quite some setup you got going on there. Well, I say you. It's obviously the master studio.
The master studio, yeah, I know. It
Back
always
in one
does
sec.
does shock people when you see the level of stuff that's in this studio.
Is that just because it looks cool, or because it actually has
Because
a
it actually all
functional
does. It all does have
functional
a
requirement?
functional purpose. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So what's happening with the Master Suite's relocation? Is that
Well,
still on track?
the Master Suite. So we're going to have two. So that Matt will keep the Master Suite, the Studio One here, at his, and then I'm building a. I'm in the process of building a replica at mine. So that'll mean that if we need to, we've got two options of places to go to do the show from. The studio I'm building at home is probably, I would say 3 times the size of this.
Wow.
So when it's finished, all good. I've got to source a desk at the moment, as in a table, like a worktop desk, and I've got to source some flooring. I've done the electrics, I've done the walls, I've got to do a bit of painting. So yeah, it's going well. So I'm just sorry, Micah. Yes, Micah, I did get your stuff. I did send you some bits on X. Twitter, whatever you want to blim and call it. I don't know whether you received them or not, Micah. Probably not, because no, you didn't receive them by the looks of this. I'll sort something out, Micah. In the meantime, bear with. And yes, Gemma is allowing this.
So encouraging, I would say.
The decision was made that the garage.
She wants her office back, doesn't she?
Well, no, the office will still be very much my kind of small studio at home, but
That becomes his flight sim room.
the garage, exactly. Andy's got it on the head there. So yeah, the garage will be half will be the flight sim will be set up permanently without me having to take it down every time I want to use it, and the other side of the garage studio will be where where I do the radio show from each week, and obviously do this show for PTUK from each week. So yeah. But it's kind of a I'm taking my time with it because Gemma wants me to make sure I do it all nice and lovely and properly. You know what she's like.
Is your beer fridge in your garage going to be near?
It will. It's literally. I've built. You say that. I've built a dividing door that you can walk through into the main part of the garage where the beer fridge is.
Good.
But yes, hopefully Andy will welcome you down here at some point, and not in a not too distant future.
Yes, and you lads have got to come up here at some point as well.
Well, I might have some spare time towards the end of the year that I'll get a chance to come
I
up.
actually want to do a little jaunt on the bike up to your neck of the woods at some point.
Do it.
Yeah,
Good fun.
It's on the cards for sure,
Yeah.
because it's a sort of part of the UK that I actually haven't really spent any time in, and there's quite a few places I'd like to go up your way. So
On a bike as well, you'll love it up here.
yeah, that'd be good. That'll be one for next summer, I think.
I'm hoping at some point our very own John Jester's going to come and visit as well, and he wants to go and see the Flixton Aviation Museum, which is just over there, just across the field there, which is good. Be nice to have John over for a visit. But yeah, Nick, you've obviously been to our neck of the woods. You know how far out of the way we are here.
Yes, it's as the saying goes, it's not quite the end of the world, but you can see it from there.
Yes.
You're all talk friendly over there and all.
Well, we are literally only 30 minutes away from the most easterly point of the UK. Literally 30 minutes away.
Have you watched any of Steph on YouTube that he's doing? He's been doing a flight around the UK coastline in a Cirrus.
Oh yeah,
and he
Stuart
actually
Ashley sent me
landed.
the link for that.
Yeah, so he landed at Beccles, and then they actually cycled to Lowestoft from Beccles to get to
not a choice I'd make, but there we go.
Yeah, so they cycled over to Ness Point and then continued on their way up to Scotland. I think they flew up to Wick from Beccles.
Richard Adams makes a good point in the chat room. Says, I need to repurpose an airport baggage conveyor to transport the beer. That would be an awesome idea, Richard. I will, when I get this garage conversion sorted, I am going to be potentially, because no one's here to hear me, purchasing some more pieces of aircraft.
Oh my God.
To go in there. What?
You've got a problem, lad.
I love it. I absolutely love it, honestly. Every time I walk in my home studio at home and I've got that beautiful 777 window sitting there, the even more glorious L1011 window above it, and then above where I sit and do the show at normally, I've got that Stage 1 RB211 fan blade sitting above my head on the shelf. Just
It's not doing any harm, is it?
No, that's so gorgeous.
Andy, I meant to ask you when we did the Hercules story of talking of big sort of multi-engined large aircraft. I was just wondering if you'd sort of flown any multi-engine piston stuff.
No, well, no, just light stuff, pistons.
Twin stuff, yeah.
Yeah, no, I've never flown. I went straight from that to a jet.
Yeah.
What was the first jet you flew, Andy? As in commercial? Was it the
20.
was it the 320?
Well, no, it was a 19, yeah.
Oh, 19. Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you do? What was your route then in terms of going up from sort of starting, in a single engine and then going into a twin?
Yeah, so it was single engine, did my PPL in New Zealand, did the 100 hour build, and then it was straight into, well, I flew the Diamond DA42 Twin Star, which was an awful plastic bit of kit. I flew the Seminole for a bit, which I quite liked, because that was proper old school instruments, 6 levers, whereas the DA42, because it was FADEC, was just 2 little throttles or thrust levers, really. And then from there, it was straight into the Airbus.
So what didn't you like about the Diamond?
Oh, it was just a dog. It was underpowered. I think the newer ones, the DA52s, I think they're called, have got uprated engines. To do an instrument rating in, well, I'll tell you what happened on my instrument rating. We're still on YouTube, aren't we?
We are still live, yeah.
During my instrument rating, you do the simulated one engine operative. And I went for the rudder trim, which is right in the middle of the console. I got about a quarter of a turn in. I heard a ting, ting, ting. I lifted my hand up and the whole trim knob just came off.
Wow.
In my hand. The grub screw had fallen out. And I was like, And the examiner was like, do you want to end the test now? Because that's fallen apart. I was like, well, no, if I'm for real, it happens for real, doesn't it? So I had to fly all of the manoeuvres required with the rudder in, and my leg was shaken quite violently. And then when he decided to give me the engine back, and we had to do some partial panel flying back, because this was a glass cockpit, so there was 3 standby instruments in the middle and the old slip ball. I had to fly back, and I had to fly it back with opposite rudder in to counteract the trim that I'd managed to get in.
Before the knob came off in your hand.
Yeah, so it was all very unintuitive. I mean, I passed the exam, but from that point on, I was like, I am done with this plastic aeroplane.
Wow.
Mm.
Yes, there you go.
Because they look really, to look at them, the Diamonds look really quite cool.
Well, they look very sophisticated, don't they? And
yeah, they're really cramped, though. They're really horribly cramped. Like, it's been designed badly if to get in a twin, it doesn't have a door on the side, the whole canopy has to lift up.
Right.
But that's just my opinion.
Mm.
But I love the Seminole. That was a proper heavy metal, old school aeroplane.
Mm. Yeah, I'd like to have a go at doing some of that twin engine stuff. It sort of scares me a little bit. You hear a lot of horror stories, don't you, about when one engine fails, the other one takes you to the scene of the crash and all that kind of stuff.
Correct, yeah. With an engine failure on those things, especially at low speed, when you're getting towards VMCA, which is like your minimum control speed at airborne, or even on the ground, if you don't react quickly, then it's turning over and you're a burning wreck.
Wow.
Ow.
Got to be careful.
And on that happy note, I need to shut the studio down here and allow Mama Smith to get back to her evening. So I will, as you're off for 3 weeks now, Andy, I will leave you to say goodbye to everyone in the YouTube chat room. Thanks again to everyone in the chat room for tonight. Lovely to see you all in there. And thanks again, Nick, to you as well for your hard
pleasure.
work this week. So final words to you, Andy.
Well, it's been fabulous fun. I hope you all have a wonderful 3 weeks. I'll see you all then, and take care. Bye-bye.